Welcome to Enough Room, a music learning project with Symphony, Nova Scotia, supported by TD Bank Group. Hello and welcome to another episode of Enough Room. I'm Daniel Bartholomew-Poyser, your host for today, and with me I have Keonté Beals. Keonté, how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really well.
Good,
so
great.
Keonté is an R&B artist from North Preston. Can you tell us, because I'd like to introduce you to our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about your music and who you are?
Sure. So I'm Keonté Beals. I come all the way from North Preston, which is the largest all-black community in all of Canada. I have been singing and performing since I was about 6 years old. You know, I kind of just got my training from gospel music, and that's where my background is. And, you know, I started playing keyboard and producing. But, you know, I just always had a love for storytelling. You know, I used to write books all the time, too. So my love just kind of stems from storytelling and being authentically me. So,
Right.
yeah, that's Keonté.
Is there a pride that comes from the largest black community in Canada?
I feel like for sure there is. I think that a lot of it, though, just kind of comes from within, really, you know, because you can be from here and still not feel that way. You know, it's just about doing a lot of the work in yourself, you know, to kind of acknowledge that and give, you know, our community the flowers that it deserves. And that kind of comes from within, right?
So is there a North Preston sound, would you say, in terms of the music that comes out of the community?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Yep.
Tell us about
Yeah.
that, because that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I would say the hub of the sound definitely comes from the church, and the church is very like funky for sure. The vibe is really funky, and I think even the way that people deliver and sing their songs too, it really for sure is a specific sound, even with, you know, the dialect that we have up here sometimes.
Because every orchestra has its own sound. So it's really interesting to know that North Preston has its own sound as well too. So you grew up in the church and gospel music. Does gospel music still influence your sound today, would you say?
Absolutely. I can remember saying all the time, or even hearing the great Miss Whitney Houston talking about how she would never perform a song without that feeling, that emotion. And for me, like, that kind of comes from growing up in gospel music and you know, just kind of feeling everything you're saying and kind of laying it all there on the table.
Feeling everything you're saying. Can you talk more about that? Like, what does that mean for you?
So for me personally, I can't speak for every other artist, but for me, I like to, even when it comes to songwriting and telling stories, to kind of dig from places, you know, that I've personally been, you know, whether that is places of depression or, you know, with love, heartbreak, or, you know, vice versa. All of those places are real and authentic places that I have been to before. So for me, it allows me to deliver the song in more of a powerful way by kind of digging those stories up from my own, you know, my own life.
Because you can really connect with it. Yeah, because it's you. You're bringing yourself. You're really putting yourself out.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it hard being that vulnerable on stage and in your song and in your writing?
It can be. It definitely can be. And one song I'll mention for sure, because I think it probably will never go away, but is a song that I wrote. It's called Man Down, and it just kind of talks about, you know, losing 3 to 4 cousins due to gun violence.
2 a.m. phone rings. Brace yourself for the news it brings.
And for me, every time I perform that song on stage, even till this day, and I think it was released in 2017, I still go back to that same place of where I wrote it, and that can definitely be tough sometimes, performing it on stage and then kind of coming out of that vibe and having to continue to deliver a show. But
Right.
you know,
And how do you do that? Because you have, it's true, right? As an artist, you got to go to that place for the actual show to be authentic. In that moment, Keonté, what do you do to keep going?
Honestly, it can be hard sometimes. Like sometimes I will find myself needing a bit of a moment, and my crew on stage they're pretty great. So they'll kind of give it. We'll play it off, but every time is different. It's different. I will say that.
I love that you are able to go there in your performances and the music I've been listening to, and you hear it. You hear it in your voice, and you hear it in your song and in your sound. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you a little bit about was which, in terms of your sound, like just tell us a little bit about your sound as a musician. How would you characterize it? How would you describe it?
My sound as a musician. That one is always the hardest question for me to answer.
That's why I asked.
It's always the hardest because I feel like I'm always growing, and I feel like what I sound like right now is totally different than what I sounded like from my first project. And then even when people hear my new project, it's gonna be like, wow, this is like another level, right? So it's so hard for me to put a specific sound to it. It's always growing, but that's why I say I just want to keep it authentic and real and make sure the stories are truly me. So I guess that's not necessarily a sound, but hopefully the sound kind of grows along with that.
Well, yeah, and people need to experience it as well too, like those of us listening. If there was in terms of people getting to know your music, from the Symphony audience, what are a couple of tracks that you'd recommend to start people understanding your journey and understanding your music? Where could they begin?
Yeah, I would definitely say to take a listen to King.
Head up, keep strong, move it forward. No tears to cry till it's over. You got to be a grown man. I hope you can understand.
It kind of touches base on, my life a little bit. King, and I would definitely, from from that album, I would say Man Down too, but also I would say a simple song like Know Better.
When we were lovers, I was 100 feet tall. I would move any mountain for ya. All you had to do was call.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we'll make a list of those for you. Make sure that you take a listen. So I want to talk about artists that have inspired you. Who are some artists that have inspired you along the way? You can take as few or as many as you like, but who are people that you've looked up to as artists for their music or for who they were as people?
Sure. I would say I have about 4 main ones, and they inspired me for all different reasons. So I would definitely say Michael Jackson has been a huge inspiration for me as an overall entertainer, period. Whitney Houston for her vocal cords, of course. Elijah Blake, which is somebody that a lot of people don't really know about, but he's written for everybody from Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, Usher, everybody, and I adore him for his songwriting. And then Tamar Braxton for the same thing. Her songwriting and her vocal arrangements are just amazing.
Right, the ability to write a song that stays with people is tremendous. Is tremendous. Because you're doing a lot of Are you doing all of your own songwriting right now?
Most of it. I do some co-writes as well, but most of my songs I write and actually produce as well right here.
That's tremendous. That really is. So we'll make sure to get people listening to those. That's great, those artists. So you're a vocalist and you also play piano?
I do, yeah.
So do you have a favorite orchestral instrument that you like to listen to or that you think or that you've used in your music at all?
I definitely love violins for sure. They're definitely my favorite.
Yeah. It's a sound that goes quite well with R&B and has for years and years and years. Are there movie composers or soundtracks that you like or that you listen to in terms of orchestral music?
I can't say any specific one, but okay, now there's there's a song from one of my favorite childhood movies. And it's called Spirit. It's about a Mustang, a horse, from the Cimarron, and I love it so much. It's one of my favorites, and the soundtrack of that movie is incredible to me. Like there are songs that are in that soundtrack that I have on my phone and I listen to on a regular basis, like Sound the Bugle. All right, that is my song.
Oh wow, okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. Sound the bugle. Okay, okay. Noted. Well, we'll see what we can do about getting that program for you to come and listen to. Okay, so that's a lot about you and your art. So I think what's really interesting is, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but you're an R&B artist, and one of the things that you seem to be known for, maybe you would disagree, but you seem to be known for talking about Black men and mental health as an R&B artist. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, even kind of being open and talking about those things too, people, like you said, I agree, know me for being open and honest about those things. And people don't realize too that, that just doesn't come from anywhere too. I have these conversations with so many of my friends who are also Black men, and some Black women too. But just conversations about mental health and how important it is, especially in this world where, we're taught to just work, and not taught to self-care. So you just have to kind of focus on both things, and it can be a challenge, but it's equally as important, both of them. And so, yeah, absolutely. I definitely love to kind of put that message out there and make sure people know that it's definitely super important.
So what's it like being an R&B artist who also talks about mental health? Because there are a lot of topics that are covered in R&B. We talk a lot about love and sex and money and, joy and life and God, but mental health is not often one. So how are you, this is kind of new territory, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely different. And I guess it's, kind of like I said, like just kind of taking something that's real and authentic and speaking about it, it's different, sure. You don't hear it as much in R&B music, sure, but that doesn't mean we can't, kind of break the barriers of that and make it, a possibility. And I believe in that. And so that's kind of the connection I've been making, even with my album, the whole album, King, is just kind of speaking about all of it.
The whole album?
Yeah.
Wow, the whole album.
It's just about being vulnerable.
And do you hear, it's funny because you're talking about being vulnerable, but that requires vulnerability on your part to actually do that, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So what's that like in terms of your career and how you're portrayed?
It can definitely be difficult. Like even the song King, I can remember when I first wrote it and I was like, nobody's gonna hear this. Like I'm not gonna put it out nowhere. Like this is a lot for me. But it's important. It's important for people to hear at the end of the day. That's what makes a project relatable, is when we all can kind of connect to a song like that. And, it can make change day by day, one by one.
And have people connected to it?
They have, and in so many different ways. And people, outside of Black men, Black women, white men and women, people of other races, everybody's connected, and they found different reasons of connecting to it too. And that's been amazing.
Can you tell us a story about somebody that maybe reached out to you and said, oh, hey, like this is
Yeah,
great.
Sure. Okay, there was one lady, and she reached out, and she was a white lady. And she was most definitely like, she was saying herself, she tries to, fully understand the struggle that us as Black men go through, even just waking up every day and seeing another Black man being shot and killed. She's like, she has sympathy about it, and, she tries to make the connection. And for her, of course, there's a barrier because she's not a Black man. But she says for the song, or after listening to the song, she was able to make the connection, even just seeing how strongly it impacted my life in every aspect of my life, right from spirituality to love to how we walk down the street and how we carry ourselves. She said she better understood it more after hearing the song. And for me, that was the point. That was the purpose,
It's about, I think it's what you said before, like one by one. Or you said something like that. One by one, just like helping people understand each other and understanding the people that are actually around us. In terms of Black culture, I'm interested to hear from your perspective why you think there is such a stigma around mental health or discussing it. Like, how did it come to be that stigma is there in the first place?
I think it was just about the fact that us as Black people, every day is a fight anyway, So like when it comes to us speaking about, the things that we're going through, like we've all heard the terms, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And the fact that people used to just kind of sweep things under the rug and pretend that things are fine because we don't have the time to kind of sit back, or, it looks like we don't have the time to sit back and kind of nurture ourselves. We have to be fighting every single day. We have to be up. We have to be ready. We have to keep going. You have to be tough and just keep going because we don't have time to just sit around and mope. That's what was taught to us.
Exactly.
And not realizing that of course hurts us as a community, but in order to even move forward and not carry the things of yesterday, you have to touch base on them. You have to take your moment to be real with yourself and process these things. It's natural to do that. It's most definitely natural and needed, and it's the only way to move forward in a healthy way so that you're not hurting people along the way as well with that traumatic experience that you've faced.
Right. Actually taking the time to touch where we've come from, and I guess it's about facing what's there, kind of, and being honest, right? And that's something that you really try to do in your music. It's something you carry through in your music all the way through. So do you think there's real hope for, sometimes, do you think there's real hope for change in our Black community regarding this issue? Because I remember talking with another Black friend, and they're going through a difficult time, and we were just talking, She said, well, yeah, Black people and psychologists. Translation, like, we don't go to those. We don't do that. We don't go to those. And I was like, actually, I actually go quite a lot. I should have said it like that because she would have laughed, and she probably needed to hear it. No, she knows, so it's fine. But it's not. Yeah, my therapist is on speed dial, but almost no. So I think it's interesting. I guess it's all we can do, one by one, and that's what's so interesting, and so. It's so great because you're so passionate about it, right? You're so passionate about this mental health, and it's a totally new thing in the field of R&B. It's totally novel.
Yeah, no, I do believe that things will change. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be out here doing all the work, putting in this here work if I didn't feel like it could change. It can. It most definitely will. And, you just have to believe that and have the conversations, in public with people and, just kind of hope for the best. All you can do is do the work and believe that it can change. And, we've seen things get better over time.
Do you get any pushback from other R&B artists who he's singing about mental health? What's he trying to do?
Nope.
Wow. That's great.
I see more respect now in my career, more so than ever before.
Because this is the thing, right? You're brave in stepping out in this new direction. I was looking online to see if there are any dance hall, reggae dance hall artists who are LGBTQ to us. And there aren't, it's really hard to find. There's just a few, right? So it's really hard to be the first person to step out in a new direction. And that's what you're doing. And that's not the only direction that you've stepped out into. You mentioned before that you were a writer, and you have a storybook. This is so cool because when I first heard about you, it was he's a wonderful R&B singer, and I listened to some tracks. So I'm like, I like it. Oh, that's different. Okay, cool. Okay. And then it's he's written a children's storybook too, and that's when I was like, oh my gosh, oh, that's amazing.
Thank you.
That's great because it's one thing to be talented and then hard and chase the money and the contracts and the right, but to be no, this is also important, and I'm not going to leave this part of me behind, but I'm going to bring my whole self to work. So it's supposed to be your interview, but it's turning into my rant. So tell us about your storybook title, everything.
Yeah. So the book is called I Am Perfectly Me. I wrote it in partnership with my baby brother, Antonio Beals. Shout out to him. He's 10 years old, and so this is his first book ever. We self-published it through my company, K Beals Entertainment. And that was kind of full circle for me, because in storytelling, I love storytelling in the version of songwriting, but I also like to do it in different forms as well, through fashion, through just audio, and also through writing books. And so the children's book has been acting as an anti-racism and anti-bullying serum for schools, all across the globe, or kids all across the globe. It highlights kids of color, and just kind of shows, the beauty that they have, and they don't get to see that often portrayed in the media. So that was something that I wanted. I wanted them to be able to open the book, see themselves, and know that they were beautiful.
I was listening to an interview where you spoke about having seen portrayals of black men in the media, basically just being the drug dealer, the athlete, the ghetto person, or the, whatever. But basically those four kinds of things, or the gay best buddy, not the gay best buddy, sorry, the black best buddy on the side. Maybe both, who knows? But, that portrayal, you're totally right, is letting kids see themselves in these books. Was there a storybook like this for you? When you
No, not at all. I couldn't open a book up and see something like this before. And that was actually, one of the other reasons too. Like, I wanted kids to be able to do that, to do something that I wasn't able to do when I was younger, and also to see that, hey, I'm a black author, and also Antonio's a black author, and he's 10 years old, and he did it. You can literally do anything that you put your mind to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring. It's kind of like you're writing the book that you needed to read.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And also maybe singing the song that you needed to hear.
That I needed to hear, man. Absolutely. Every single day. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's super brave, because you're actually, people always say things like that. Write the book that you need to, but you're actually doing it. And that's what's very special about your music, because it has such heart. I'm wondering this is just like kind of a side note question. Who did the illustrations for the book?
I did.
Did you really? No way. That's fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Because I saw them and I was like, I wonder who did these illustrations. That's crazy. Okay, so there's a lot going on. I love in an interview you can actually find out more as things are going along. Okay, so we got R&B check, and mental health activist awareness check, and then songwriter and all this stuff. And I have to say, the book, there's one page in there. I think the line is, both my mom and my dad went on to heaven. I still feel them every day, guiding me in the right direction, right? And then the caption is, I love my uncle, or something like that. Is that the actual caption? We can get it right because the author's here. It says, I love my uncle. So for me, growing up, I was raised by my mom and my aunt. And I was the only family that's like that. In the Caribbean, families like that, totally normal, right? It's just like, there's your mom and your aunt, you have an uncle, blah, blah, fine, right? Okay. Seeing that in your book was, I think, the first time I'd ever seen in a children's book somebody being raised by the the brother of a parent, or the sister. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything close to my family structure in a children's book. Right? Better late than never, Keonté. It brought a tear to my eye. I was like, oh, wow, my auntie's being validated.
Right. Wow.
It's real.
See, man,
it's
real.
Real.
When I hear stories like that, it is unexplainable. I can't even explain the feeling of that. Yeah. That's awesome.
And this is kind of what's been happening to me over the past while. Mark Twain said that, this is not the total quote, but the quote from Mark Twain is something like, the worst part about having your house burned down is that it takes years to realize what you've lost. Like 7 years down the road, you're like, I forgot I lost that as well too in the fire or whatever, right? And it's kind of the opposite process now, lately, of now that there's more representation in art, and more representation in R&B, and more representation of mental health issues, and representation of black people and colored people in children's books, that I'm like, oh yeah, that would have been really nice to have had that along the way. That would have been really nice to have seen that. Oh, this would have actually made a huge difference to my life. So that's the work that you're doing through your music and this activism and the storybooks, and it's pretty tremendous. So other thoughts about the book? Where can people find the book to purchase it?
You can find it through my company's website, which is just www.kebe.ca. Yeah, and you can find everything there.
And we'll put that up so people can see it as well.
Awesome.
So what's next? Actually, before we go to what's next, can you tell us about some of the big news that's been happening over the past while, some of the accomplishments, and then what's next? What's happening?
Sure. Accomplishments. Well, I mean, I would definitely, I guess mention the company as an accomplishment to me. But I definitely won an ECMA not too long ago.
You won ECMA, and what was that for?
R&B Recording of the Year for my album King. And King was actually the first full album I've ever produced all on my own. And so that was pretty crazy.
How was that crazy? What was crazy
I guess
about
the
that?
feeling was just crazy. Like I definitely feel like, okay, like before in my career, like I would always feel undeserving of things. Like even though I know I worked hard and and I put so much effort into everything that I do, I still always felt like I didn't deserve it. Like I could be doing more, I could be going and pushing more. And now, like for the first time in my life, I feel like I deserve it. I feel like I deserved that award, and that's a different feeling for me on all levels. It makes me feel, I can't even find the word, but it feels great. It feels great. It feels great.
Huge congratulations. Huge congratulations to you on that award. And I can't help but think that, a great part of mental health is being able to recognize when we've deserved something that we've worked really hard for.
Yeah.
You
Took
know,
a long time
that's really
for me to see
yeah,
it.
it
Took
really
a long
does.
time for me to see it, man.
really does.
Oh yeah, I would beat myself up bad, all the time, all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. After shows and stuff, just kind of not feeling good enough.
yeah.
But it's definitely changed this time. I'm enjoying my career now for the first time ever. So I'm happy about it.
That's a real musician thing, the beating
my
yourself
goodness.
up after.
Yep.
Yeah, we can all
Yep.
share that.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's real. It's real. So maybe you can do an album about that as well too. Musician, don't beat yourself up so much. It's so heartening to hear that you feel like that you deserve it. And apparently ECMA thought so as well. And King is wonderful music. It's a great song. Your voice sounds great. So I'm really excited. So what's coming up next? Like what are your plans for the next, say short term plans?
Sure. I'm such a secret squirrel with everything that I do, so I'm always like, what
You're
am I?
a secret what?
A secret squirrel.
A secret squirrel. Oh wow! Tell us about that. that's new. That's a new one for me.
When it comes to all that stuff, I'm always like, whoo. Like I'm the guy that mentioned something the evening before dropping a whole project. but I will say that I have completed another album, and I actually completed it immediately after completing King. So I worked on it last year, and it was finished since last year. So it'll be soon coming out here.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you. We want, here at Symphony Nova Scotia, we want to respect the privacy of all secret squirrels. So we greatly appreciate your indulging us with a sneak peek into what's happening next. Well, that's fantastic. So where can we hear your music? We already have some songs, but where else can people hear you and find you?
Yeah, at KeontéBeals.com. You can find everything on me, as well as, of course, the company, as I said, KEBE.ca.
That's fantastic. Keonté, thank you so much for being here with us on Enough Room. There are young people in the youth orchestra, young musicians, and classrooms that listen to these. Do you have any messages for the young people of Nova Scotia, if you were to give one?
Yeah.
Right now? Young musicians, particularly. Young musicians.
Yeah, sure. And honestly, it would just kind of stem from what I just said, just not beating yourself up too bad. It's okay to want to be better at something and to work to be better, but you don't have to beat yourself up along the way to do it. You don't have to put yourself into those dark spaces to do it. You can go out and you can fight and you can work and you can get it, and you can celebrate your victories along the way and learn from your failures.
I think that's advice that we can all profit from. Everyone, this has been Enough Room with Keonté Beals. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much for having me.